I would say, one of the most serious, like worst things that we'll see in the game, and it's the main dance floor.
This, to me, was like the biggest jaw drop, pause, holy shit moment for me in the entire game.
Having that discussion, I think it's probably important for us to talk about what we actually see.
And the more you play this mission, the more you get desensitized to this kind of thing.
You can hear those cell phones ringing, and it reminds you of what, you're kind of fighting for here, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Isaac, and this is Shayne.
Hello, hello.
And welcome back to yet another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole, the show where we look into all of the terrifying secrets and scenarios of Ready or Not so you don't have to. And today, we're going to be diving into perhaps one of the most sort of contentious missions of the game, a Neon Tomb. So Shayne, please take it away.
So the basics of this mission is really starts overseas. So the U.S. bombed a northern Yemeni town of Madi, believed to be housing a terrorist cell called the Hand. In destroying this town, it resulted in the local U.S. cell of the Hand becoming active and retaliating, specifically by attacking a nightclub in Los Sueños. Now, this is a reference to a real event that occurred back in 2016 where a very similar set of instances occurred where the U.S. attacked Iraq and Syria, and a man who I'm not even going to say his name because I don't think he needs that, launched an attack on a place called Pulse nightclub in Florida. So it's a very similar set of situation, but it also kind of opens the door to a really interesting question. How close can art imitate life? And so I'm going to start by throwing that question at you, Isaac.
Yeah, man. So, as you mentioned, it's a bit of a hot topic online on whether interactive forms of media like video games should include, levels like terrorist attacks, school shootings, what have you, those sorts of things like that. Now, personally, right, I've seen all kinds of other media represent these things. I can think off the top of my head, the movie Elephant. There's all kinds of like TV series documenting attacks and stuff like this that, while informative, are also like their primary purpose is to entertain people because you're learning about this sort of stuff. And for whatever reason, there's been this taboo for a really long time that like video games, you should not be able to show these things because you're gamifying a tragedy, or you're making a game out of like the misery of others, I think was the big thing. But to me personally, when I play through a level like this, it shows me just how horrifying that these events are in reality, right? I don't know if you've kind of fallen into the same sort of trap, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have, where it's like, the United States, this is not an uncommon thing. Terrorist attacks, school shootings, mass shootings, and, you see them on the news so often with such regularity. It's sad, but they sort of start to lose their punch after a while. Like you don't, there's a really great quote out there that says, when you see this stuff enough, it just becomes another statistic. It's not a tragedy anymore. It's just a statistic. Yeah. And that's sort of the feeling that I get when you see these things happen in real life a lot. But like this game, through Ready or Not, when I first played it, when I played these levels, it really showed me firsthand like the suffering and the tragedy of these events, right? Like stuff that I never even really considered before. When you watched like a documentary or something, playing through it as the first responders really kind of gives you that perspective of how horrifying and how tragic these events really are. And it's sort of, it sounds corny, and I'm not trying to like make a wild point here, but when I first played the game, it sort of it reopened that cut, that wound that I first had when I first started seeing these things when I was a kid, right? So, I don't know. I know that's a bit all over the place, but it really is kind of a hard topic to talk about in an eloquent way. So, man, I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
So when it comes to just, I would say art in general, because I mean, video games are art. I know people debate it, but no, video games are art. It's true. I've always been of the camp where nothing is off topic as long as you're respectful about it. Right? And for all intents and purposes, I believe this is. The goal is to showcase, an active shooter situation, at a nightclub, be an echo of what actually happened. And they do that, and I think these are important stories to tell. I think this is something that a lot of games will shy away from, especially in modern days. Because, I mean, the most recent example I can think of like a developer showcasing something really fucked up like that is No Russian, right? Call of Duty, No Russian.
Right.
This is the only other example of something that horrible being demonstrated. And I think what's really interesting about playing this specifically as a video game, as a cop game, is, again, it's a video game. You're going to be replaying stuff over and over again. And I know for a lot of people, the Amos Vol mission is like the biggest, like, oh shit, of the entire game.
Right.
For me, it was this. The walking through the nightclub, seeing the aftermath of the attack, and we'll get into it in a bit, but like the cell phones, that really stuck with me. That was one of the biggest, like, holy shit moments. And like you said, you see this stuff so much on the news that you become desensitized. And finally getting to experience this stuff in the shoes of a police officer really puts you in a different perspective. And the fact that it's a video game is the only medium that can do this. I mean, yeah, they could do a movie about this. Yeah, they could do a show about this. But you're in the passenger seat for those. In a video game, you're actually controlling the character moving through this horrendous event. And that's what makes it really unique compared to any other art forms. But there's also the other layer of the fact that, again, it is a video game. And the more you play this mission, the more you get desensitized to this kind of thing.
Right.
And that also could be the point, right? Because you're playing as these cops, seeing this horrific shit. I mean, especially in Los Sueños. Like, we've talked about many missions in this game that just are the worst things possible. And the more you play this mission, the more you kind of get numb to everything. And that could also be the point, or it could just be a byproduct. Yeah. It's a really odd, messed up thing that you experience. And that is kind of the really interesting thing about playing Ready or Not, is because you get these two experiences in one. You get the, oh shit, this is really creepy, this is really fucked up. But the more you play it, you get desensitized, and then you can kind of like empathize with people who do this in real life. Because really, again, this is based off of a real thing. How are those officers after this? This is one of those things that's really hard to come back from. How did they cope with this? And it really makes you think about all these things. And again, you can't have these thoughts, you can't have these discussions unless you actually make the art, unless you actually push the boundaries. And that's what I really respect about this mission, is that it tried something that not a lot of things do. And it's very, very interesting in terms of just, I guess, the psychological aspect of this mission alone.
I really appreciate you bringing up that sort of meta commentary about, like, since it's a game, you also, when you play the game enough times, you become desensitized to it. And it almost, I like how you mentioned that, because I do agree with your point that it does kind of reflect the real life, things that police officers go through, and not even necessarily just, first responders and stuff like that, but us sitting at home. Like I said, you see these things happen on the news time and time and time and time and time and time again. And eventually they just, you start to kind of go numb to it. So, one could even argue that just it being a game level in itself is sort of a reflection of that, right? That, after you play it enough times, it loses that weight, I guess. But with that being said, with us having that discussion, I think it's probably important for us to talk about what we actually see in the level, right? We've done all this kind of hyping it up. So, the very first thing that you see when you load into the map is just this parking lot, or I guess just entrance area, I should say, filled with all these dead bodies. The Hand evidently came in, and as these people were lining up to get into the club, they shot everyone down, including security, including, what I'm assuming are young adults. Everybody who is outside was shot and presumably killed. But something almost more impactful to me on a game design note, though, aren't the bodies, but the ringing cell phones next to them. Now, I know that you briefly brought this up a second ago, but from a game design perspective, right, a body on the ground is just that, right? If you've played any of Ready or Not's other levels, if you've played any other shooter game, you see a dead body and you just kind of gloss over it. And while this is a bit different within its context, you walk past and you just see the sheer enormity of like this attack, and you know what it represents, you know what it's trying to be, right? So naturally that hits. But what really sunk in for me were these ringing cell phones next to the bodies, where you can see the family members, presumably the family members of the people who were shot, naturally saw these attacks unfolding on the news. They heard it somewhere that there's a shooting at the nightclub, and they're trying to call their kids or their spouse or whoever and see if they're okay. And naturally, the people who have been shot aren't able to respond to those phone calls. And it really is kind of it's one of the few super humanizing moments that I've seen in a game like this, where it really, something as simple as like a cell phone ringing on the ground can make you, like, it hits, right? It makes you say, oh God, like I can't imagine seeing this like with my own two eyes, right? And being able to walk through that was the first thing that I noticed on my very first playthrough of this map, was the ambient sort of noise of these cell phones vibrating and ringing. And as we'll progress throughout the rest of the level, that's sort of a really, I hate to say cool element, but it's there throughout the entire level. This ringing, this noise. And at any point, if you sort of start to tune out, you can hear those cell phones ringing, and it reminds you of what, you're kind of fighting for here, I guess. Yeah. But these cell phones aren't the only sort of piece of evidence that we can gather outside of the club here. Most notably to me is some of the graffiti that we'll see on the walls. And one of the painted things that we see is actually the symbol of the carriers of the Vine cult from a couple of episodes ago. Now, if you guys don't remember, the carriers of the Vine were essentially this cult of women. And essentially what this cult was doing were they were kidnapping these men, taking them back to their compound before torturing them and killing them. Well, we'll see their symbol here on the wall, and if we go inside, we can actually find one of the people that was tied to that mission, a guy named Big Dick Rick. And Shayne, I've been told that you're a Big Dick Rick enthusiast.
Very much so.
I'm going to throw it to you and get your perspective on that.
Okay, first of all, I have to admit something. I don't know how many times I've played this mission. I think I've done 2, almost maybe 3 or 4 videos on this mission. I have never once noticed that Carriers of the Vine symbol outside. When you pointed that out to me, when we were doing our research for this video, I was blown away, because it's like, okay, I remember Big Dick Rick, he pops up again, right? It's a very, very memorable name, but I had no idea that that symbol was out there. But yes, Big Dick Rick, he's a very interesting character. He pops up again later. And if you look behind this section in the walkway, there is a bunch of little things that the people who work there write up. Something about, like, if they don't tip, oh, I guess I lost your coat, or how to deal with people coming on to the girls or something like that. I believe, what does it say? Something like, call them expletive boy or something like that. And it's like,
it was
that's good.
Any cuss word that you can think of followed by the word boy. So I guess it was just going to be bitch boy, ass boy. I don't. But
I'm sure it works.
But it is, I do appreciate them kind of adding in those details, because as dark as this level is, I think it's important to sort of have like little moments of levity to where it's not like you're not just taking all of the medicine. You kind of have a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of sugar to go down with it, I suppose. And I think that's important too, right? Because you don't want to get into kind of being too grimdark or being like edgy about it, right? And I think this is kind of a respectful way of going about that, even if it is like a little thing that you can sort of walk past and joke about. Like, as soon as you leave that sort of coat room, it gets back to business as usual. It gets back to being pretty heavy.
Right. And in fact, when you go into the side hallway, we get our first really reference to the big bad of this operation. Now, we've gone back and forth. I don't know how to properly pronounce this guy's name. Did we ever figure it out? Is it Quadamah?
I think it's Quadamah.
Quadamah?
I've heard Quadamah. Like I've gone through sort of the entire, expanded series of this dude's name pronunciations. So audience, if there's a particular way that you like to hear this and we changed the pronunciation 12 times in this episode, just know that we're sorry and we tried our best.
Right.
But I think it's Quadamah.
Quadamah, gotcha. Okay. So we're looking for a guy named Quadamah, and he is the leader of the Hand, at least this cell. Now, there's something that we learn later, it's not necessarily in this mission, but Quadamah is an ex-USIA asset. He used to work with the USIA. We know the big bads, the guys that kind of have their hands in everything, that are trying to, I don't know, a lot of stuff going on. It's a long story. They're the big bads of everything. And we learn much later that this fella used to work with them and may have used their tactics that they taught him to create this cell, to basically launch this attack successfully. And he is our main target here. He is the one who led this, and we are supposed to bring him back alive.
And Shayne, you mentioned some of the tactics that they use in the attack here. And I think one of the most notable parts of this mission, you said you see that pile of bodies underneath of Quadamah's name. If you look closely at the door there's actually like a chain and a lock that they wrapped around it, which sort of indicates that they must have had like an inside man get in prior to when the shooting started, and they sealed off all of like the entries and exit points. So these people were essentially just trapped in the nightclub. Well, once the shooting outside started, they sort of funneled people into these dead ends, and that's where, a lot of the casualties came, were when these people got put into these fatal funnels and they weren't able to get out. And I just thought that was a point worth bringing up, that it seems like there was an inside person there prior to the attack. And I just wanted to ask you if you thought that there was do you think they had like an employee on the inside or anything? I don't know if there's any evidence that ever suggests that, but it has been kind of like a personal pet theory that I've had for a long time.
Yeah, I think they would have to have, right? Like, at least one or two guys who are already there. Because once it started, people would probably try to flee to the exits, but if they would have to have locked it before everything started, before everything went down. And they would have to have been given access through other doors and stuff like that. I don't believe there is any evidence to suggest that, but I think it has to be. That has to be the case. Now, if we continue along the side here before we step into the main room, we can find these pool rooms in the back. And we've talked about before how there's other various references to other media in different missions, Ready or Not. This, I really believe, is a reference to John Wick 1. I don't know if you guys remember that. There's this really interesting scene where he's fighting all these guys in like a mafia pool room. Or no, it would be a Russian mafia pool room. And it looks like one for one. And it's such a good reference, and I love it a lot.
It is. You can definitely see it, I think. You go down, the lighting is like exactly the same. The layout with like the brick walls next to like the hot tubs is the same. So I think it's definitely got to be a reference to it. And you also see some like kind of other crazy stuff down in the pool rooms too. Like the thing that I think of, and the reason I'm laughing, is because there's a sign down in one of the sort of hot tub areas that says, "Do not copulate in the pools." So, Neon Nightclub, as we work our way throughout it, there's all this kind of like sexy branding that they have all over the place. You can see like these neon lights in the shape of certain body parts. You can see like all these statues and sort of suggestive lighting and shit going on. And I thought it was kind of funny that like you get down and they've got a legitimate problem at the establishment with people like getting it on in the pool,
which is really gross if you think about it. Like, do you know how many people are? No. in Los Sueños, right?
Mind you, yeah. So like the filtration system's not working. You know that there's some grime in that on the seats of that pool.
I'm pretty sure I read on one of these missions that there's like a bacteria problem in the waters outside of Los Sueños. It's like I would not. Yeah, I wouldn't even get into a pool in Los Sueños, let alone one of those pools.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign. Like if you're ever out there in real life somewhere and you see a sign that says "Please do not screw in the pool," it's probably like a good idea not to get into that pool.
Just
right?
run.
Just
go.
You leave that one alone, right? But anyways, moving on from the sort of kind of funny pool rooms, we get to, I would say, one of the most serious, like worst things that we'll see in the game, and it's the main dance floor. So it seems that once the Hand began their initial attack and began shooting up, the outside of the nightclub, once they made their way inside, I'm not sure if everybody knew what was going on. The loud music and flashing lights of the nightclub are very intense, and it's kind of hard to see or hear anything. We can even see that for ourselves as we go and try to clear through this area. If we're getting shot at, it's really difficult to pinpoint where the shots are coming from and stuff because of the volume of the music and the intensity of the lights and stuff. So I kind of personally think that like once the Hand made their way in here, that a lot of the people may not have even known that there was a shooting happening. And we can kind of see evidence of this because there is such a large body count in this room. I mean, I'm talking literal piles upon piles of people from where they were dancing were shot by the Hand and killed here. And it's, like I said, it's probably one of the few points in the game, outside of the club was one of them for me. The room in Valley of the Dolls was another. There's these moments in Ready or Not that you kind of reach this threshold of a map and you see a particular thing that kind of, makes you pause the game for a minute, and you have to sit there and kind of question what you're seeing in front of you, right? And it's a really intense moment trying to clear this room. And then, once you finally take out the rest of the Hand and you turn the music off and there's just this calm and you see all this stuff in front of you, I think it's a really kind of intense moment for a game to have.
I mean, I don't think we ever get an official like body count of how many people died, but it had to be in the hundreds.
Surely.
Because once you walk into this room, like I said, this to me was like the biggest jaw drop, pause, holy shit moment for me in the entire game. And that kind of goes back to the point of desensitization Is that a word?
Right.
Desensitization? Sure, that's a word.
So.
Let's go with it. Let's go with it.
Trademark it, yeah.
Yeah, trademark it. It desensitizes you. And this is the first example for me, because it's like, holy shit, that's just so many people are dead. But then you keep going, you keep playing more missions, keep going through, and then you just become numb to it, which is really fucked up. If you really think about it, the amount of stuff you see, the missions we haven't even talked about in this game, the missions we have talked about in this game, you just become numb to it all, which is a really scary feeling the more you think about it, because that's what happens to people in real life. If you experience this stuff consistently, you have no other alternative but to become numb to it all. It's really odd. It's an odd feeling, especially when you start to like take a step back and just think about it. And it's like, wow, no, really, that really did affect me in a way that I haven't really thought about before. And I hope a lot of people who've played this game or have played this mission can think that too, or can appreciate that understanding of what real people go through. And I know it's not equivalent in the slightest, but maybe if it helps somebody understand what, you know, a brother, sister, dad, mom, whatever went through, maybe it could help them in some form of understanding, you know?
And I think that's where we kind of get into the value of video games as an art, the value of Ready or Not as like an art statement. Because while it is a game, I think the way that we really need to look at it is interactive art. It allows you to gain a perspective that you would not otherwise have. Like, I don't care how good of a movie or a television show there is out there that represents this. I think that this is probably the most accurate portrayal of these events in like a form of entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, a lot of people do criticize it. They say, like, you know, like I mentioned earlier, it's gamifying a tragedy. That it's, you know, a lot of people find it sort of disturbing that it draws a lot of parallels to like real world incidents, like you mentioned with Pulse and stuff. But I, in my personal opinion, I think there's a lot of value to be had in something that shines a light on something that we're all too familiar with, but it shines a light on it to where we kind of see a part that we haven't seen before, right?
Yeah.
I've had family members, I've had an aunt and an uncle that were, you know, they weren't victims of a mass shooting, but they were at a event where one happened, and it's one of those things where it's like, I saw that on the news when it first happened, and I didn't know that they were part of it, right? Mm-hmm. And when I saw it on the news, I hate to admit it, I saw it and I said, oh, well, that's another one, right? And that's all it was. I went about my day until I got the call from, you know, my family members that said, no, they were at that. I was like, Jesus. And the fact that it took me having to know somebody to kind of be hurt by that again, I think that's where we get the value in stuff like this.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you get to interact with it and see it for yourself to a certain degree. Like, I'm by no means trying to make the false equivalence here that like, oh yeah, this video game, it's exactly the same as like living through the terror of one of these events firsthand. That's not what we're saying at all. Mm. But what we are saying is it does, you know, sort of glean a perspective that you wouldn't otherwise have, right? Because a book's not going to make you feel the way that this level's going to make you feel. A movie's not going to make you feel the way that this game's going to make you feel, right? But being able to actually go through and see that for yourself firsthand, I think there's a lot of value in that.
And I think that's what's really important with the Ready or Not brand as a whole. It has this very unique ability to present these very complex situations in a fairly digestible way. And I know we've talked about the crazy conspiracy theories and all the weird lore that this game gets into, because it gets into a lot of weird stuff. But for me personally, it's, again, playing these missions that are reflections of real life events and walking away with another understanding. Walking away, because, I mean, again, everybody's different. It takes... people digest and understand things differently, and Some people might think a video game isn't capable of providing understanding, and other people, this may be the catharsis they were looking for, to understand the mentality of how it is to survive something like this, or what it's like to be involved in something like this. And I really appreciate when a game can do that, because it's a very rare thing. There's there's a whole other debate about whether video games are, gameplay or stories more important. But right. For me personally, I love stories compared to the gameplay, right? If a game has an amazing story, I can look past bad gameplay. And that's what I really love about games, again, because it gives you the ability to perceive events that would otherwise you would be a passenger in, whether it be reading or watching something. And again, this mission in particular is the prime example of that feeling, of that understanding.
I think that's a pretty good place to leave it for this episode. That pretty much sums up the entire mission. We're able to apprehend Quadamah, whatever, and the rest of his men. But as we'll later find out, this is not the last time in the game that we'll encounter the Hand. But as always, I've been your co-host, Issac Morgan, and you can find me on all social medias under the Issac Morgan.
And you can find me at Shayne Please Shut Up and No One Cares on YouTube, and Shayne the Doyle on Instagram. And before you say it, yes, we know Live Rat is a reference to Deadmau5. Issac, did you know that Live Rat is a reference to Deadmau5? The musical performance at the guy performing at Neon, his name's Live Rat, and little known fact, but he's actually a reference to Deadmau5. So remember, kids, Live Rat is a reference to Deadmau5. Good night, everybody.